Hi there, this is Dr. Mark Wireman, and it's a brief video over skin repair. Now there's 4 phases to skin repair. The first phase is going to be hemostasis. Now stasis means stop, and then hemo means blood. Now phase number 2 is going to be the inflammatory phase. And this is where your body's going to freak out and you're going to see some swelling possibly. And then after the inflammatory phase, you're going to see this phase called the proliferative phase. And that's just a fancy word for growth, or your cells are going to be growing and you're going to be doing a lot of repair in this phase. And then the last phase of skin repair is going to be the remodeling phase. This is where you're going to be trying to make the skin look as good as possible and try to get it as functional as possible. Now let's talk about step number 1, or phase number 1, hemostasis. Now underneath hemostasis, you have 3 steps. And this is a high priority problem because you're losing blood and your body does not want to. So step number 1 is going to be vasoconstriction. Now constriction means constrict or make smaller, and vaso means blood vessel. So within your blood vessels, you have smooth muscle. And once you damage this blood vessel, that smooth muscle is going to get the signal to contract. And when it contracts, it folds into itself or kind of contracts onto itself to make a smaller lumen or smaller blood vessel. And what you're going to do is you're going to slow the flow of blood, which is great because less blood is going to exit the blood vessel, and you're going to try to maintain it and keep it in the body. Now, once you've done vasoconstriction, then you're going to move to the next step, and that's going to be making something called a platelet plug. This is a temporary plug just to plug the hole of the blood vessel to stop even more blood from coming out. Now, in your blood vessel, you have this protein called collagen. And this collagen is a really strong fiber. It's stronger than steel in one direction. So it makes sense that we would find it in the blood vessels to keep the blood vessels strong. But when you have damaged blood vessels, you're going to get exposed collagen. And when you have exposed collagen to the blood, these platelets are going to freak out. And they're going to become activated. They're going to change shape and turn into kind of sticky or bumpy or grabby little cells. And they're going to become activated, and then they're going to release a chemical called thromboxane A2. Now this thromboxane A2 is going to activate more platelets, and those activated platelets are going to release more thromboxane A2. More thromboxane A2 means you're going to activate more platelets. And so you get stuck in this vicious cycle, or this positive cycle, positive feedback loop, and you're going to have all of these sticky or grabby platelets fill up this gap and create a plug, hence the platelet plug. So that is a positive feedback loop, which means it happens quite quickly. Okay, so step number 1 in hemostasis was vasoconstrict, slow the flow. Step number 2, plug the hole with these activated platelets that are very sticky. Now this is not a clot, so we need to finish up hemostasis with the last step, which is creating something called a fibrin clot. So with this damaged tissue, you're going to have some more chemical reactions occur, and you're going to create this fiber called fibrin. And this fibrin is going to act like a net and stabilize that platelet plug. And that is going to be called a clot, or a fibrin clot, and that is pretty stable. So once again, the 3 steps in hemostasis: constrict, slow the flow, create a temporary platelet plug, and then create this awesome fibrin clot. Step number 1 is done, or phase number 1 is done. Hemostasis is done. Now your body's going to move to the next phase, which is the inflammatory phase. And so that starts with the mast cells. Now the mast cells are going to freak out when there's damage, and they're going to release this chemical called histamine. Now histamine has quite a few functions, but one of the functions is it's going to go to the smooth muscle, and it's going to tell the smooth muscle of the blood vessels to relax, the opposite of what we just did. And when you relax, it's going to cause vasodilation. And so when you have vasodilation, you're going to increase the blood flow. So once you've stopped bleeding, now you need to bring more blood because you need to swell, or you bring more white blood cells to the area to start the repair process. Now this histamine also has another function. It's going to go to the tight junctions between the cells of the blood vessels, and it's going to snip them. And what that creates is it creates a leak. It creates leaky blood vessels. And so water is going to sneak out, white blood cells are going to sneak out, like neutrophils and monocytes. And that process of water and fluid coming out with the cells is called extravasation. Vasa means blood vessel, ex means out. So basically the fluid and the cells are going out of the blood vessels. And this fluid is basically swelling, but that fluid is going to be called exudate. Now, one side note here is when the monocytes do come out into this area, they are going to convert into macrophages, and they're going to start eating or capturing debris and pathogens. So it's going to start repairing the process, and if there's any bacteria or fungus that got into the area, it's going to chomp them and try to take care of it. Now these neutrophils or other white blood cells do the same thing. They are looking for pathogens as well. And it's during this inflammatory phase that you're going to see the 4 signs of inflammation. So you're going to see the rubor, the calor, the dolor, and tumor. Okay, rubor means redness because blood is red. Calor means heat because blood is hot. Dolor is pain because whenever you have swelling, you're going to put pressure on the nerve fibers and cause a pain sensation most of the time, or some of the time. And then tumor is a fancy word for swelling. So as this exudate accumulates, it's going to make the area a little bit poofy, and you're going to see that swelling or that edema. Okay, so that is the inflammatory phase. Now, once you have gone through hemostasis, stopped the bleeding, and now you've inflamed, so that way the white blood cells are checking out the area and you're swelling, now your body's going to move to the proliferative phase. It's going to try to make new tissue. All right, so there's a little diagram of your skin and with a big old gash in it. Now the top layer or the superficial layer of your skin is the epidermis, and below that is the dermis. Now don't forget, epidermis is epithelial tissue and dermis is connective tissue. Now you have to do a lot of repair here. So your body has this awesome ability to make new blood vessels. So that term is called angiogenesis. And so genesis means creation, angio means blood vessel. So if you're going to do a lot of metabolism, a lot of work, you need to deliver more blood, so your body will create more blood vessels to go to that area. And your body is going to create new connective tissue. And that connective tissue is going to look very grainy. So that tissue has a word for it. That new tissue is called granulated tissue. The granulated tissue is basically new tissue with the grains, the new collagen, the new connective tissue being made, along with the angiogenesis and the blood vessels going in the area. So it looks very, very red. Now you also need to fix the epidermis or the epithelial tissue. So you do have some stem cells hanging out in the stratum basale area, and they're going to go over the granulated tissue, over the margins of that wound, and then they're going to start going through mitosis and filling in the gap of new epithelial tissue. And that process of making new epidermis is called re-epithelialization. Fancy word for returning the epithelial tissue. And so basically you've filled in the wound and the gash, but you're going to create a scar tissue. Now, once you've filled up that gash and created the new tissue, your body will move to the remodeling phase. Now, the remodeling phase is just putting tension onto that wound and just trying to make it as strong as possible, but it will never get back up to its original tissue strength. You can get up to about 80% tensile strength, and that's pretty good. That's good enough. Now, it is possible sometimes your body does make a little mistake and it creates extra scar tissue on your skin, and you'll get this big poofy scar. If that happens, that scar tissue has a name or a term, and it's called a keloid. A keloid scar or keloid tissue. Okay, so a lot of terms and a lot of information in this video, and I hope it helped you. Thank you very much.